Pnawn da, croeso i cyfarfod, diolch am bawb am dod. Hello and welcome to Merthyr Tydfil Council's Regeneration Housing and Public Protection scrutiny meeting on Tuesday, 26th of September. Every time. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast via the authority's internet site. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes. Agenda item 1. Apologies for absence. Councillor Scott Thomas. I think Howard was struggling to attend as well. So, okay, thanks, Ellie. Item agenda 2, declarations of interest. Councillor Thomas.
6 on the agenda. Chair, taxi rank provision. Being a taxi driver, I've been advised to declare a personal and prejudicial interest in this one.
No problem. Thank you. Okay, item agenda 3, scrutiny forward work programme. Has anybody got any points to raise regarding the forward work programme? No? Okay, great. Moving on.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Councillor Jones?
You're too quick for me then.
Sorry.
The SPF report. When is that report likely to be ready?
I just said whenever we want it.
So that's a matter we can discuss later on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, cheers.
It's quite a big report. I'm gonna guess on that.
Yeah, it's gonna be quite a lot of information because obviously the past 6 months has been the full setup of the program. So the detailed information that members will be interested in is now available. We've set up quite a robust series of structures to manage and have an oversight of everything. I've got a meeting, I think, Michelle, we got a meeting next week so that we can go through the first cut of the format of the information. So it's basically ready, Clive.
Workshop or? Yeah, everybody okay with the workshop with that? We're quite full at the moment. I think that would work better. Okay, thank you. Okay, item agenda 4, disability facilities grant. Susie, you presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So we brought back the report of the DFG Disabled Facilities Grant Service following a scrutiny meeting that we held in June, just to talk about the ongoing challenges of the service delivery from both an operational perspective, a strategic fit point of view, and also from a client experience and delivery process as well. So what we've done since June, or I'll just reflect on the June scrutiny firstly. We held quite lengthy discussions around the ongoing challenges in terms of the current model of delivery sat within housing, the lack of strategic fit and technical knowledge of being able to deliver that service. And despite our best efforts really at trying to streamline processes and operate more efficiently, the ongoing sort of relentless demands on the housing service and the lack of that strategic fit has just made it very challenging to continue and has become quite unsustainable. We discussed within the last meeting that lack of strategic fit, and we shared a business case around potential options and other services in which to house that service potentially more effectively in light of the fact that the current SLA was at risk. So the current SLA between RCT and then the subsequent SLA to deliver our DFGs with care and repair. We have a latest update following even later than the drafting of the report this week is that Care and Repair have issued a formal letter to outline their intentions to cease the delivery of the SLA at the end of the natural contract, which would have been the end of March 2025. We've had some discussions around whether or not we would like to continue in the current mode of delivery, considering not only the operational challenges within the council, but also quite a number of lengthy issues that we're experiencing with the delivery of the larger works and the extensions of the disabled facilities grants, which are having a substantial impact on our clients. So following the last scrutiny, we've had a number of consultations with our community occupational therapist service, with our property service colleagues, with building control, and just had an overall review of our processes and procedures. As such, we did have sort of a general sort of consensus that we need to do something differently, and that we also need to look at bringing the service back in-house. And the consideration around this is whether it's the service is brought in at the end of the natural current SLA, being March 25, or whether we look at doing that from March 2024. As I just alluded to, we have experienced and are still experiencing a number of significant issues with the delivery of one extension in particular. And as a result, it does mean a significant cost to the local authority we will be looking to reclaim. However, given some of the issues around that experience of delivering those larger grants, and the really unsustainable position housing find themselves in managing the service, we are recommending that this service is brought in-house from April 2024. As such, what we've drafted in parallel with this scrutiny report is a council report that will be sent up today, to be brought to the council. I think it's the 10th of October. Recommending that the service will be returned to an in-house provision at a small cost from April 2024.
Thanks, Suze. I'd like to open up to questions. Councillor Williams-Price.
Thank you. So, firstly, with regards to ending the SLA early, and obviously Care and Repair stating that they want to wait until the natural contract end, are we legally able to end that early?
Yes, so we've sought some legal advice, and we have had some ongoing consultation with both RCT and Care and Repair as valued sort of partners in terms of the delivery of DFGs, but other grants and services for our vulnerable clients as well. The legal advice is we can give 3 months notice on our existing SLA, so we can exit that. And we have had some early discussions with them to understand any potential consequences of ending that early also. So whilst their preference would be to end at March 2025, we can legally enter into discussions and give them a little bit more than what is the formal 3-month notice, and give them about 6 months notice, which is what we'd aim to do.
Thank you. And with regards to cost of the service and bringing in that in-house, what information do you have about the costs at present, please?
Okay, so what we've done since the last scrutiny meeting, we discussed the potential sort of service model being a DFG manager with the possesses technical knowledge, a DFG surveyor and a DFG coordinator. To do that, it would incur an initial sort of cost outside of the 15% agency fees that we get. I will outline them in full in the council report, but we'd be looking at year one. So next year it would be around £38,000. And then with each year it would go up slightly. So 25, 26, it would be 46,000, 26, 27 up to 53, and 27, 28, 59. However, I think it's pertinent to note at this point that failure to bring we will have to bring the service in-house regardless from March 2025. But I think the longer we delay with this, the more issues and costs we're going to incur in the larger grants that we are failing at the moment. So those are the annual costs, but we need to think of the wider savings as well.
Thank you. And then finally, again, just to touch upon our discussions in June, you'll know that one of the concerns of the scrutiny committee was that although we acknowledged that housing wasn't the right fit, we were concerned about the impact on any other department. So I suppose this question would be for Chris in Property Services, in how you envisage the service operating under your department.
Yeah, so what we're looking at is with the appointment of these new posts, that would be a kind of run itself type of thing. So it wouldn't impact on any of our other services at this time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Clive?
Cheers, thank you, Chair. First of all, could you tell us exactly at this moment in time, Susan, how many referrals we've got? And are you able to tell us how many large grants we've got? You know, break it down with the other smaller grants as well.
I can certainly send that information out in terms of a breakdown of small, medium and large currently on the list. Off the top of my head, I know we've got around 90 referrals outside of those already sat with care and repair that will take up all of the spend for this financial year. So we have 90 people on a waiting list that are currently waiting for those pre-approval sort of discussions and checks. And of those, there are potentially 2 large extensions within that batch. So the next batch going over for next year would include potentially 2 extensions and the majority small and medium.
So the majority of them are small and medium then, or that
Yes.
90, is that right?
That's correct. What we did do as part of some of the streamlining of processes and looking how we can work prudently, how we can work better in terms of aligning the strategic development and housing and how we increase our adapted stock, how we map the adapted stock that we've got with our RSLs, and how we be more prudent in terms of that assessment of what is reasonable and practicable. And again, I think that that's something that due to some lack of experience within our partner agencies, I think there has been some further work, so the number of extensions we are seeing naturally decline now.
Would a wet room be regarded as one of the large grants, provision of a wet room?
It would depend on the existing structure of the house. So, for example, if there's already facilities that can be altered within the existing footprint of the house, then it would be classed as sort of medium works. However, where there are significant changes needed to the footprint of the house to accommodate that access to the wet room, then that could enter a larger work and you know, cause the need for an extension.
The reason I ask is that I know a person who, unfortunately, she's died recently, waited over 2 years from start to finish. And it was only, I think, in the summer, start of the summer, when the work was finally finished. So unfortunately, she didn't live long enough to have the benefit there. But from what I understood, I spoke to her a number of times because I've known her many, many years, is that there was a constant wait for different people to come there. So is there a good flow as far as cot staff, others, builders go in there? How quickly does that flow take place, or are there normally hiccups?
I think honestly at the moment, because of the number of parties involved, it can be quite a lengthy and confusing client journey, which it doesn't need to be. And I think that's one of the learnings we've had from having not just an SLA with a second organisation, but a subsequent SLA with a third organisation. And for vulnerable clients, it does lengthen the process. It can be quite tricky and confusing. And we have had lots of the complaints and feedback that we've had around the DFG processes for these vulnerable clients are that they're having to sort of contact a number of different people. So that does cause an issue. The unfortunate secondary position is the budget. So the budget is stagnant. The demand has grown almost quadruple. So the length of wait will naturally lengthen now, and the staff, I suppose, that have been contracted to date in partner agencies can only deal with the requirement of £850,000 worth of referrals. Whereas if we had an in-house team, they would manage everybody on that waiting list and at least just give regular intervals in terms of updates, where you are, how long, much longer you'll be likely to wait, and see if there are alternatives in the case that you just sadly mentioned. I think we'd like to try and look at accessing other grants as we have done, like Housing with Care, to see where we can future-proof some stock. So there is already stock with wet rooms. So if people are in dire need, there are some alternative provisions as well.
So the fact that we're going over in April next year, is that going to cut out, improve the flow because there are too many people involved?
Yeah, the flow will most certainly improve. There'll be a single point of contact. There'll be a single team dealing with everything from the administrative work, the paperwork, to the full technical plans, etc. The only caveat I'd say to that is there will still be lengthy waits because of the budgetary position, but in terms of the process itself, it will improve significantly.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. Another question is on page 23 and the paragraph 5.5. And it's what a part of that says, whilst the day-to-day management is unsustainable, we're exploring the potential for an SPF funded post to support the efforts in prevention work at the housing hub for people with disability and health issues, which could support those requiring DFGs whilst also maintaining the strategic link with housing, etc. The operative word there is prevention. Could you, perhaps I haven't read it properly, but could you explain to me how that's going to work?
Sorry, let me just read the paragraph. Sorry. Right, yeah. So in terms of the SPF funded post, essentially it's to help people who are in housing need or experiencing issues before they get to crisis point. So if, for example, somebody may come in and they might have budgetary issues, but as part of the housing hub, it is sort of a holistic service where we look at any needs that a person may have. If somebody is registered as disabled or they confirm they've got sort of health needs, then we'd have a dedicated officer to look at asking them questions about their existing home, asking them about their needs in terms of the level of independence, and then we can look at signposting to other agencies. So Care and Repair will have other types of funding and support, grab rails, for example, to try and help people prevent issues later on. In terms of the DFG, then they can also help start the ball rolling or explain about the signpost to the DFG service, help with the application forms and support the administrative coordinator.
And currently we haven't got that facility at all, which obviously must help again the situation as to how we deal with these grants.
Absolutely.
That's very interesting. Thank you.
Thanks, Clive. Any other questions? No, I've got a couple. Sue's question was asked earlier about the costs and what it's going to cost us. If we bring it in-house, do you feel that we can save money in other ways?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of the cost, where our partner agencies are having difficulties as a start, it is resulting in further cost to the authority in putting things right and altering larger works whilst things are already on site. So we're seeing quite a significant rise in costs due to those issues. But wider, I suppose, in terms of the corporate drain on resource at the moment involved in delivering the service. So I'm quite hands-on operationally at the moment, which is taking me away from a lot of strategic housing development work that we could be doing. Our housing hub manager and staff are also involved quite heavily. And you know, even something as simple as a corporate complaint coming in is having to go to 4 or 5 different agencies to even get the information we need to provide that response is completely inefficient in terms of time and staff resource. So there's quite a number of ways in terms of financial saving, in terms of those reduction in and anticipated costs of those sort of technical works, but obviously from a staffing perspective, it would be significant also.
Thank you. Anna, do you want to come in on that point, or it's a different question? All right, you can come in anyway. I can ask mine after. Yes, mate.
Thanks. It was just regards to specifically, obviously, DFGs can be used in cases where a person is in social housing. So the adaptations or improvements are obviously retained by the social landlord. So beyond the DFG, is there any obligation or agreement with RSLs that they potentially could fund improvements before a DFG is needed or in combination with?
Yeah, so what we've done over the past couple of years to try and maximise the impact of the money that we've got for Merthyr, we've worked really closely with Merthyr Valley Homes to look at how we stretch the pot as much as we possibly can. So Merthyr Valley Homes, for example, last year spent over £350,000 of their own funds in adaptations. We currently work on a basis that anything over £5,000 would come over to DFGs, anything under MVH would fund themselves. We will look to negotiate again this year. So we did start discussing this last year after budget setting. We said we'd pick that up again this year to see if again we can have some further help. And we've also submitted joint applications to the Housing with Care Fund, of which Merthyr Valley Homes have received some funding to take on some of the MVH properties that were waiting off the list and start those work as early as possible. And similarly, we've done the same to try and help bring the cost of the extensions down and make them achievable, really, for those who wouldn't have otherwise been able to afford them. So there is a lot happening. But I think we do need to further those discussions in light of the rising costs and the increased demand, how we can continue to work in partnership and maybe relook at that 5k minimum sort of threshold and see if we can up that to maybe 7.5 or 10. So there is more of a contribution from MVH on those properties. And with the other RSLs, then they have access to the physical adaptation grants through Welsh Government. So they apply directly, or they have their own pots of money based on their identified need through a separate source.
Thank you. I just got a couple of questions left there. Regarding social services, are they on board this new way forward?
Yeah, so we've briefed Angela and Lisa in terms of the suggested approach, and we've had some discussions with the operational management team. I think, that they're absolutely on board that anything we can do to streamline the process, because inevitably complaints will come across the authority and some are coming through the OT's doors. I think the one thing I will say is that we will need to have a sort of shared commitment from all parties involved, because even though housing won't be involved in delivery, we'll certainly be involved from a strategic perspective to continue broadening the range of adapted stock we've got locally, and we need to support with any future sort of Housing with Care grants, and the OTs from a perspective of, if there are any issues, if there are any needs, if those needs change, that we work really closely operationally to make sure that we mitigate any impact on the vulnerable clients. So that's something I think we need to work on and continue to do.
Great, thank you. The last question. Do you feel like we're providing a good service at the moment?
Currently, unfortunately not. I think the staff teams are doing a fantastic job in very, very difficult circumstances. The pressure on the operational housing team and our housing hub manager is significant, and it is taking us away from our duties. We're dealing with quite a lot of complaints and issues with very vulnerable clients, which can be demoralising for staff as well. So, Jen and colleagues have done quite a lot of work in terms of keeping clients updated, explaining and setting realistic expectations at the start that we can help, but this is going to take some time. And if that time is something that people don't feel like they can or would like to wait, just exploring other options to see what we can do. So I think they're having a good service as best as they can, but I think the limitations of that is tricky due to the multiple partners involved and the lack of sort of collective ownership, I think, that we need to take.
Thanks, Hughes. That's all the questions I've got. That wasn't a dig at you guys, because you put your way above your weight on the small team you are anyway. So thank you. Any other questions? Any comments? No? Okay. I thank you for coming in and being honest with us. You're welcome to leave, or you can stay. I know you want to. Okay. Moving on, agenda item 5, St. Tidwell Shopping Centre. I'd like to ask Alan to introduce, and then Lance will move on.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, if I just give a very quick overview and then and then pass on to Lance. But what I would like to say at the start, this really is work in progress. Obviously, our primary driver for buying the shopping centre was to ensure that we were in control of ownership, to enable our longer term plans of a full redevelopment of the town centre. Because to date, our successful regeneration process has been a bit like a donut. We've been able to regenerate the town centre around the shopping centre, whereas really it's the heart of the town, and it needs to link with the rest of the facilities, rest of the provision, and it's probably the one area in the town centre which is most in need of rejuvenation. So we bought the centre when it came on the market at a very, very low price. We were fortunate that we accessed Welsh Government grant to purchase the centre, so we didn't have to go into a situation of unsupported borrowing and incur any revenue implications. And since then, as well as progressing our plans for a full redevelopment over a 5-year period, we've been getting to grips with what we've actually got in hand, because our longer term plans are very ambitious, but we needed to understand what we've got in the here and now, how it all operates, any issues, any deficiencies, and any short-term improvements that can be made. So when we started the process, it was managed as a physical estates asset, and the management went into our estates department while we worked with the agents that we retained, Cook and Arkwright. Over this period, we've gone through several phases of understanding the fabric of the building, understanding the makeup of the businesses, and understanding how the staff team operate and interact with the existing contracts which we took over. Obviously, Lance is here and going to take the report. Once we had that basic understanding and did a full review with Lance and Adam Richards, our commercial manager, we now have a roadmap in putting in place a development plan, a full business plan, and changing the business model. So instead of it being managed as a corporate asset in an estates perspective, it's now transferred ownership to our enterprise team. So Lance, who also manages the Orbit Business Centre, has taken over the management of St Tidvilles. And obviously in previous reports that we've brought forward, we've made mention to the fact that, again, simultaneously, we're looking at creating a special purpose vehicle, potentially to look at the local authority trading company in the next few years, which would establish us probably moving Orbit and the centre out into that type of model if it's feasible. So work in progress. We might not have all the answers in this session that you want to discuss as a scrutiny, but the progress we're making is rapid. Obviously, Lance will update, and we're happy to come back in the next couple of months to give you further updates. Lance?
Yeah, thanks, Al. So yeah, I think Alan's captured the majority of it there. The report itself features on the review that we've recently carried out since the purchase of the asset to current date, following the department change of responsibilities. There were really 3 themes in which we looked at in terms of the report, and you can see that where we were, where we are now, and where we want to be. We looked at identifying any gaps currently, and they follow the recommendations of the review. There were some strong themes which came through. We looked at the business plan. We looked at the centre management. We looked at the current centre roles. We looked at the contracts and ongoing reviews there. I think importantly as well, we looked at operational budget, the property market and the sub-property market, which is critical at the moment because it's very fluid. We looked at the leases and rental values, and then we looked at a little bit more detail in terms of the indoor market and the offerings there. Clearly arriving then at the 7 recommendations, which you can see at the end of the report.
Thanks, lads. I'd like to open up to questions. Councillor Williams-Price.
Thank you. So firstly, looking at this, as you said, as a potential route to future plans, as things stand currently, is the situation with the shopping centre sustainable to carry us through to when those plans are realised? Is it profitable?
Yes, it's profitable at the moment. It generates an income. That's not to say that we couldn't improve that income, but that goes hand in hand with the current property market and sub-market that needs to be factored in, and the downturn within that market over the last 12 months.
Do you want to come in?
Yeah, quite right.
Yeah, Ali wants to come in. Ellie's on her own, so yeah, just in comparison to some similar facilities in the South Wales valleys, the void level is quite good in St Edmunds, because obviously the downturn of the economy has had quite a dramatic effect, especially in relation with retail. And I suppose the expertise that Lance and his team bring to this as well is that Orbit Business Centre is jam-packed full, which bucks the trend of other facilities of that nature in Wales. And there's a formula there that we just need to transfer to the shopping centre. So in the short term, we need to maximise any voids we've got. You know, it's a property exactly the same as Orbit, but obviously the functions are different. So we are quite optimistic in the short term of making further improvements, and especially, I mean, it's a bit of a gem, but it's been neglected over the years. The indoor market, it's got fab potential, but unfortunately the fabric of the building is awful. So we'll probably explain after about the potential options for moving that as well. Thank you. Just before I come back in terms of the fabric of the building, were we alerted to the full extent of how bad it was prior to us purchasing the building?
Yeah, we knew it was pretty bad, but and obviously we had quite an in-depth survey carried out by Cook and Arkwright and by a specialist structural engineering firm. But it's only when you're actually in there after a couple of years you can actually get into the sort of fabric of what it means.
Okay, thanks, Al. Anna, do you have any others? Yeah, go on.
With regards to the relationship with Cook and Arkwright now, could you just obviously appreciate the initial advice that they gave, but how is the relationship now, and how will that contract add value to what you're doing over the next year?
I think in terms of our relationship with Cook and Arkwright now, we've got a good relationship with them. I think in terms of adding value, in parallel with the report, we need to look at it in more detail, and we are doing that at the moment. I think if we were to look at it, if we were in the private sector, then we would be asking a property management company to look at that and carry out full management of that asset. So we are looking at the contract at the moment and what more value they can add in terms of running the facility.
Yeah, Alan would like to come in as well.
Although obviously Cook and Arkwright, sort of, their name is through this like the sticker rock. There's two different functions. When we purchased the centre, they were our agents who did the due diligence and took us through the purchase process. But the second function they had is they were already the management agents for the centre who were employed by Patrizia. So basically we just inherited that contract. But as Lance has said, we're in the process of making quite some dramatic changes to it. Some things we learned quite quickly as well is obviously the financial management, the billing, the transaction management. We transferred to our revenues and payments. And what we found out very quickly is a commercial operation, you can't fit it into a local authority payment and data system. So we've had to completely redesign that, and that's one of the things that Lance has worked on over the last 2 months. So we understand what we got, we understand what we need to do, and we understand the short-term improvements, because although our aspiration is long-term and complete redevelopment, we just can't leave it stagnate either. So we're looking at the short-term, medium-term and a longer-term plan.
Thank you.
Thanks. And similarly, in terms of sort of immediate plans for the town centre and ensuring that obviously it's attracting footfall, a lot of events are also run by or in collaboration with the BID as well. So same question really in terms of where that relationship is at the moment and where you see it in the immediate future.
Do you want me to pick that up, Lance? Yeah. Obviously, with the footprint of the town centre that we've now got, from the civic centre to the shopping centre, we're probably one of the biggest outside Tesco contributors to the BID as a local authority. Earlier this year, on behalf of the local authority, I became a director of the BID, and our working relationship with the BID has gone from strength to strength, and a lot of the town centre events which are now being run, previously we run as a regeneration team, but the BID are running with our support to give it that better business ownership and sustainability. Sorry, Lance.
No,
I had to throw my director's card in.
I think on the relationship that we've got with BID, yeah, I think it's improved dramatically over the last couple of months. The current team based on site, they're really engaging with the BID. Saying in terms of the events, we've had some successful events. The beach event in particular, footfall was high there when we look at comparisons on the same period last year. They've got another nice event planned together now for Halloween as well, which will come forward. So the relationship with the BID has improved dramatically over the last couple of months, and we welcome that.
Thank you. Councillor Salmon.
Thank you, Chair. This report was quite a topic, to be honest, in the pre-meeting, and I gotta commend Lance for it's an honest report. It's what you would call it, probably a warts and all report. So yeah, thank you for that. I deliberately not going to go to town on this, to be honest, because I know you've just taken over the role. But I do want to ask, one of the things mentioned in the report is fast actions and efficient decision making for the future. Now we've owned, I believe we've owned this now for 18 months. I'm just wondering, how long do you envisage before you, Alan mentioned, it come back to scrutiny with updates, especially say on the indoor market and well, everything about it, to be honest.
In terms of the recommendations there, we've already moved quickly on some of them. The indoor market you mentioned there, we've already started to work on, it's in draft format at the moment, development proposal. It's quite exciting proposal there, which we're working on at the moment, and how we can bring additional space into use. And we're fully aware of the challenges of the centre and the infrastructure there for the indoor market, and how we can rectify some of the issues there, but also add value in terms of some of the neighbouring units that we may be able to bring into play as well. So we certainly well ahead there in terms of developing a plan there for the indoor market. The contract reviews with Cook and Arkwright, we've already touched on, so we've moved quickly there. I think the clarification for the centre in terms of roles and responsibility, we've done that already. The letting policy, particularly for the indoor market, we've already agreed that, so that's moved forward quickly. And we've already started to work on the marketing strategy for the whole of the shopping centre, including the indoor market as well. So we have moved quickly. There's lots of work to do. Come on board here since July, and a lot of things have happened, but it is going to take time. We're in the process at the moment of carrying a full building survey as well, and there will be further actions obviously coming from that, so we're waiting on that report, but things are moving at speed. We'd like to be in a position where we concluded some of the plans by the end of this calendar year.
But would you say a 6-month period before you come back to scrutiny to give an update on the progress made? Is that fair? 4. Okay. Yeah.
No, honestly, the pace, now that we understand it, and now that we understand the property and how it works, actually making improvements to the efficiency in the running is what Lance does on a daily basis, and the whole regeneration team. So after Christmas, we'd be happy to give you an update.
Lovely. Cheers, Alan. I've got one other question I have, and it's jumped out to me, to be honest, and it's a 6.12, and it's management of the indoor market faces day-to-day difficulties with militancy of long-standing tenants and from direct contact with councillors, making change and some managerial aspects difficult. Do you want to give us a little bit of information on that? Is that because of the state of the indoor market, and along with that, are you now speaking with the stall holders, or do you intend to soon?
Yeah, in terms of some of the traders there, they're historical traders. They've been there for a long time. Perhaps they're a bit constitutionalized there, which we tried to work with them, trying to see the value in what we're trying to make in terms of changes. We are in constant dialogue with all traders within the indoor market. Sarah Bell, who's the indoor market manager, has really worked hard there, and has built some bridges. That's not to say there aren't still some challenges there. Obviously, there's direct contact then as well with councillors, which comes back to us, and we get regular inquiries coming from councillors, which we'd welcome, obviously. So there is a lot going on in the indoor market. There are some serious challenges there, particularly with the infrastructure. It's an aging asset in terms of the escalators, which are ongoing issues, and there was over last week, since last week with the weather. So it is challenging, but we try to get the correct legal advice and expert advice, and relay that back to the indoor market traders, and our door's always open, and they can always come and talk to us, and we regularly feed them with updates.
Yeah, thank you, Lance. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks both. Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I welcome the fact that we'll have a further report next January. I think that will be interesting when it arrives on our desks. I start off with the Chair has mentioned this. There was a detailed survey done of the state of the shopping precinct before we purchased it. Was that available to every member of the council?
No, I don't think the actual report, so it's a highly technical report. But obviously we've got a follow-up survey, which Lance alluded to there. We're happy to share the results of both, because the second survey enhances the detail of the first survey. So we're happy to share the highlights of that.
Right, because it'd be interesting to see the both, frankly. What was then, whenever that was done, because the property was purchased on the 14th of December 2021, so it must have been done a few months before then. So we're talking probably well over 2 years since that original survey was done. But it must have stated there, surely, not having seen it, what were the priorities? Because, as Lance has said, this is an aging area of buildings. From what I can see of it, like a lot of other elected members, we go to the shopping precinct, we use the shops, we walk through there. It seems to me that there's a hell of a lot of work that needs to be carried out. You mentioned when the question was posed to you by Councillor Williams-Price that if it's profitable, obviously we can't determine from this report whether it is or it isn't. So I would suggest in the next report, if that's possible, that we see where we are with the financials, because the authority has spent well over 5 million quid, purchasing it. So we want to see where we are with it. And it is mentioned here on page 29 about different matters that should be looked at: income generation, occupancy, maintenance, plan progress, payment arrears, visitor frequency and volume, and energy usage and efficiencies. Now, the cost of energy nowadays, it's all right, it's coming down a bit, but it's still gone through the roof. And everybody in the commercial sector and domestic sector, people are trying to recover from that. Has an energy survey been undertaken right throughout the shopping precinct already, or is that in progress?
In terms of energy survey, no, not to date. Has that been carried out? Now, as far as I'm aware, there is the full building survey being carried out at the moment. So that will probably look at the efficiency opportunities as well. We have got the opportunity now with our SME decarbonisation officer as well to look at it in more detail and explore possibilities there as well.
I mean, I'd just give a small example. As I said, I, like everybody else, use the shopping precinct. I walked there last December sometime, across from the College Park, in the daytime, broad daylight, and all the Christmas lights are all blazing there, upstairs and downstairs. I'm the energy person on the council, and I thought, well, in this day and age, is there any real need for all these lights to be on? I sent an email took about 4 or 5 different people before I finally got the answer, and the lights were switched off. Now, for me, there was an immediate waste of energy. It might not be, it's a minor thing, but for me, there was wastage taking place there. So clearly, for one, I'd be interested to see the energy survey and what we're doing about it, and to make it more efficient and to reduce costs to us. Now, as far as the lease terms, management, and upcoming vacancies, the writing of this report, which was last August, there were 11 vacant units, which make up 23% of the total available. Obviously, there's a loss of income. The more you've got there, and it doesn't look good. And I know, I'm aware right throughout the UK, but because of everything that's happened with COVID, etc., that every town centre is having problems. But 11 seems to be quite a high number, and it says in the next paragraph down, there's only been one new tenant introduced in the centre since the acquisition. So I'd be interested in what your views are on that. And then in this paragraph where he refers to the one new tenant, and I read it, it says it's unclear how many leases exist that have been signed between MTCB and the occupying tenants, and how many remain as transferred LSH agreements following acquisition. So it seems to be that we've got a problem. We don't know where these leases are, who signed what. So I'd be interested to know what your view is on that one as well.
Yeah, you're right to highlight that. I think as part of the review, we looked at the tenancy schedule, and to date there was a lot of confusion and missing information there. We've worked with Cook and Arkwright since I come on board in July. We've now got a much greater understanding since the report has been written. We know now the full extent of the tenancy agreements. A lot of the agreements are inside the Landlords Act. With the market changes in our interest to continue until both parties agree on terms because of the sub-market decrease. So we've got a full understanding of that. There has been some challenges there from some agents of the commercial entities as well, which we've been working through with our agent to rectify those challenges. We're now in a much better position with full understanding of the tenancy agreements. There has been further agreements for tenants to come in recently as well. Should we say, some of the lack of activity really has been challenged with Cook and Arkwright and their marketing of the asset as well. So we've taken that into account and looked at that as part of the contract, and now we're developing clear marketing opportunities of the vacant units. That's not to say that some of the units have their own challenge. There's a big issue with water ingress in some of them, and we cannot take to market at this moment in time. So that obviously impacts on the units which are currently vacant as well.
So let me be clear that the marketing is carried out by Cook and Arkwright.
Yes.
And in your opinion, are they doing a sterling job? Are they up to it?
To date, I would question that, and I have questioned that. They do use certain systems where they market, obviously their own. They also market through systems like Costa, which are open to all commercial agents as well, who are acting for businesses that can view that. But I think there's more that can be done as well there.
And because you took over staff, which I transferred over under 2P arrangements, they were transferred.
When we purchased.
Yeah, when we purchased them. So you had to take the staff that were there at the time. I'm trying to put this as delicately as I can. Were the staff that you took over suitable to everything that's been done in the management of the precinct? And I think when we have this report in January, it'd be interesting for us all to have a tree as to who's who, who's doing what job.
Yeah, I think in terms of the staff and the current staff there and the team, they do a great job. It's a challenge, but they do a great job. They've got a great understanding of the centre. Some of the staff are historic, come over to Dover. Obviously Sarah's come in as a new member of staff to look at the indoor market and marketing as well. I'm of the opinion at this moment they do a great job. They work incredibly hard for the shopping centre and indoor market at this moment in time. They're fully bought in to what we want to bring to the centre. We want to add much more business support and holistic business support to the businesses and the traders, that be it the shopping centre traders or be it the indoor market traders as well, and the pop-up traders that we see. So they very much buy into the enterprise programme that we currently deliver and the successes of that. So they work incredibly hard.
Fine. Just one or two more questions, Jay. On the first floor, I think that's where there's a number of units empty. That seems to be a particular problem. Do you think that in time we'll be able to resolve the issues there?
I'd like to think so. There's got, there are some severe challenges there in terms of ingress in particular, and some of the issues with particularly the roof. We're looking at a lot of work at the moment on that first floor where we've had to raise the walkways there because of drainage. And there's a tanking issue there, and Chris and the property team are working on that at the moment, that we need to resolve that. But I'd like to think that we can bring some of those units back. We'd have to look for a large amount of funding to bring those units back. But as I mentioned earlier, with the indoor market development proposal, then there's some exciting opportunities there and will really add value to the shopping centre and Merthyr Town Centre.
And in the 1 year and 10 months that we've owned this building, has there been much maintenance carried out, or is it there are things that had to be done because water's pouring in through the ceiling? These are sort of things that you come up against.
It's both, in answer to your question. We've had to deal with unforeseen maintenance issues, which we do, but there are ongoing maintenance occurring constantly as well. One of the things that we are working on is obviously the maintenance plan that we've mentioned, but that we'll need to conclude the full building survey, which will then feed into the maintenance plan going forward.
Of the 25 maisonettes that are there, it says in the report there's 2 currently vacant due to damp and mold issues, one of which only recently refurbished, but issues resurface quickly. These 2 units will remain void until longer term solutions are agreed. And I think I read somewhere else that there's another one which is being used by social services. Obviously, as from a housing point of view, with over 1,800 on the waiting list, the authority is desperate to find accommodation whenever. The 2 that are currently vacant due to damp and mold, are they going to be brought back into use? Is the work going to be done on that?
We need to wait for the full building survey,
Right,
and then we can take a view on that.
right, okay. And there's something else which jumped up at me. On page 30, refer to the in-house team and the St Tidwell Shopping Centre indoor market manager works 4 days a week equivalent. But obviously the shopping unit is open 6 days a week. So what happens to cover that for the other 2 days?
They work on a rota basis. So you've got the centre manager who works full time. We've also got the facilities manager who works full time, and the indoor market officer was previously on a 3-day week contract, has now increased to 4-day week, but they work on a rolling rota.
So it's always covered then?
Yes.
Got it. Well, you know, we wait. There's lots of other things that perhaps all of us could ask, but I think we wait with interest to see the report in January. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Just before I bring Anna in, I just like to echo Lance's comments that, like, having taken on the talking shop for a number of months, the staff there were excellent, really engaging, and you know, really helped us out. So yeah, they're really good. Councillor Williams-Price.
Thank you. Can I just pick up on the comment regarding the potential for a local authority trading company? When will that be in a position to be discussed by the scrutiny or full council about whether that's the right way forward?
We currently, obviously this was subject to a council report a couple of councils ago. We've engaged with a legal firm now, and we're in the process of starting a series of internal workshops to actually work up the scope of how we're going to go about it. I'm probably guessing that we won't have anything in outline until the next calendar year.
Sorry, just to clarify, because I think that was a cabinet report rather than full council. Thank you.
Of course.
Thanks, Anna. Yeah, no other questions? I just got a couple. In terms of the new one tenant, could business rates be put in, like new businesses off as well? I know, especially if it's a larger unit, you know, I didn't realize what the business rates were until we took a target shop on, to be honest, and obviously could apply for small business rate relief, but yeah, they are quite expensive, and maybe possibly be splitting the shops up to make them smaller for businesses. Don't know.
Business rates are always a talking point in the town in general. They are high. You know, it's something that we can look at splitting those units, but then we got to look at infrastructure then that needs to be put in, things like splitting the utility metering, things like that. We need to look at it. You know, we still need to factor in as well as a service charge as well, and the rental values. Although, as I said earlier, rental values are dropping substantially at the moment. But yeah, business rates are always a high consideration for attracting any businesses coming in.
Yeah, thanks, Lance. I know you have, but have you started looking at other models in other areas, and you know, the likes of Newport Market being one? I was down there last Christmas, and I was really surprised how good that was.
Yeah, we actually engaged with Simon Baston last year, who developed out Newport Market. So it's on our radar, but at this point in time, we didn't feel that there was a suitable property place to develop that provision. But it's really on our radar.
Thanks, Al. Yeah, I suggest everybody, if they get a chance, go down and have a look at Newport Market. It's really good. I haven't got any other questions. just like to open up to comments. Councillor Salmon?
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, as I've already mentioned to Lance, it's quite a very honest report. Some positivity out of it, though. Alan has put the pressure on Lance now to come back with a report in 4 months to show the progress, which is great. And it'd be nice to see progress there as well. And I'm sure will benefit the traders and customers and everybody visiting the town centre in general. I just want to bring up a good news story as well, which is in relation to the shopping centre as well. It's the children of they were year 3 Cadraw because they contacted me in July. I left it because it was coming up to summer holidays. They sent me a letter, which I've passed on to different departments. And basically, it was quite a strong letter, and it was in regards to a lack of maybe bins and recycling bins in the shopping centre. And because of the committees they've got, biodiversity and that sort of thing, which are fantastic within Cadraw, Lance has said, and I'm going to quote you on this, as a direct result of the pupils' letter, the shopping centre will be locating recycling bins within the centre for the general public. So hats off to Cadraw, which they were year 3, now it's year 4. So hats off to Lance, to Alan, Lee Simmons and Paul Wingate for making that happen. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Salmon. Councillor Johns?
Yes, Chair. Having read this report from end to end, the one thing that occurred to me is that you can be depressed what was in it. But I think as a council, we've got to make this work. We've made a huge commitment in purchasing it, the whole area. And I'm sure we were aware, we certainly were aware, and the officers were aware, having seen the survey beforehand, the implications that were there. But I look forward, because this is a central plank. It's bang in the centre of the town of Merthyr Tydfil. And I want to see it working to its full extent so that everyone, not only the 30 councillors, but the public also can say, yes, we're quite happy to come into Merthyr, because we do get people from other valleys. It's not just Merthyr Tydfil shopping there. They come in from either side, certainly the valleys either side of us. And long may that continue. So I wish the officers well. I think there's a lot of hard work that's got to be put in there. And I look forward to seeing the report in January. And I told the scrutiny when we had a meeting, we were talking about when we could have another report. And I said, I'm sure they can do it in 4 months. So my crystal ball's working, Chair.
As always, Councillor Jones. Yeah, thanks, Lance, for coming in and being honest with us and with the report. We look forward to inviting you back in 4 months. Enjoy your Christmas. Yeah, so yeah, thank you. You're welcome to stay, but I'm sure you've got other things to do. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Agenda item 5, St. Tidwell. Oh, sorry. Item agenda 6, taxi rank provision. I'd like to invite Paul Lewis to present. Thank you. Oh, sorry, John.
Thank you, Chair.
Cheers.
Report brought for you today, members, is in relation to taxi rank provision in the county borough. Members will be aware that we've got existing ranks within the local authority. And the purpose of the report brought for you today is to outline the results of a consultation that was carried out, and to outline plans that we've got to adopt traffic orders to increase the number of ranks within the town centre. Where we were, members will be aware that obviously historically Victoria Street is our main taxi rank in the town centre. A unadopted but taxi rank is located in the train station, and we had a third unadopted rank which serviced the late night economy in the old bus station. Where we are now, obviously, taxi rank at Victoria still remains and continues to service the daytime economy. I'm sure members will be aware that it's an established and well-used rank. The unadopted taxi rank at the train station again continues to offer a service, mainly around commuters. But we have obviously lost the evening economy rank with the redevelopment of the new bus station. A survey was carried out, both aimed at the trade and the general public, to seek feedback on taxi rank provision. As you can see in the report 5.2, 395 responses were received. Overwhelmingly 92% of respondents stated a nighttime taxi rank was needed following the loss of the one at the old bus station. Assessment of these responses also asked for comments as to where the location of these ranks should be, and the two main rank areas that were identified was the servicing the Dynevor Street nighttime economy, and one operated in the town centre itself. With no dedicated late night taxi ranks at these locations, customers are either reliant on pre-booked taxis or by flagging down passing trade. This can lead to difficulty in customers leaving the town centre and can cause crowds to gather, particularly in the Dynevor Street area, which can cause risk related to road safety and crime and disorder related matters. Where we want to be, we obviously want to aim to facilitate taxi ranks at key locations, provide a safe environment for both taxi operators and customers, and have fixed locations where customers can be confident they could receive taxi services. We believe the current town centre rank adequately covers the daytime economy, and the rank at the train station is able at the moment to service both customers at the train and bus stations. Members will be aware there's obviously consideration to development of that part of the town centre, and we will also make representations for perhaps extra taxi ranks when that development takes place. What we have identified is a weakness in the nighttime economy, particularly at a time when there's limited evening bus services and a growing town centre hospitality offer. So it's been proposed 2 evening economy ramps located in the town centre, one on Cleveland Place, and will be available between the hours of 6 p.m. and 8 a.m. A map of this site is attached as Appendix 1, and a second taxi rank service in the later night venues to be located outside the college, utilising an existing bus stop operated between the hours 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. And a map of this site is attached as Appendix 2. In proposing these ranks, we've identified street lighting is sufficient on both of those areas, and both of the areas are covered by the authority's public space CCTV cameras. As with any taxi rank, the success of the rank will be based upon the licensed trade and customers using the ranks. If the proposed traffic orders introduce these ranks are adopted, the licensing section will work with the trade and look to promote the use of these sites. What we need to do next is bring the report obviously to scrutiny today and take back scrutiny feedback and suggestions. If the proposed plans are to proceed, then the report will be taken to Cabinet to bring in new traffic orders. The reason why we need to go that route is because there are existing traffic orders on both of these sites. Members will be aware the Cleveland Place site has currently got yellow lines, and the college obviously is subject to a bus lane traffic order. So the purpose of taking it to Cabinet is to introduce traffic orders as opposed to legislation which is in taxi legislation for specific ranks. If adopted, new signage and road markings will also be required. And obviously we will seek to promote the use of these ranks to both the trade and to the public. So I welcome any questions or comments in relation to the proposals.
Thanks, Paul. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I've got no reason to put any objections in the way of these 2 new taxi ranks. You just answered the one question I was going to ask, because obviously the one by the college is marked bus stops all the way down it, and the one by the side of the old tax office has got I think it's a single yellow line all the way. So does that mean that the single yellow line and the market of the bus stop, because they've been used at other times by the taxis, will that single line remain and the bus stop markings remain, or will they be altered by the traffic orders? And the second question is, I can't determine from either how many taxis can park in each one at any one time.
Okay, in relation to the yellow line and the traffic order in relation to the bus, they will remain.
Right.
But it'll be an amendment to that traffic order with the new traffic order that at certain times it'll flip into dual purpose. So obviously the yellow lines will flip from 8 p.m. onward, that they'll become a taxi rank, and therefore only Hackney carriage vehicles will be able to use that facility.
So do you have to put a sign up either side clearly saying the hours of the right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And same with the college
Right.
in terms of the bus.
And the numbers of likely taxis likely to park there?
If my memory recalls, and I'm looking to Joe, I did request roughly the same sort of numbers that we were looking at on Victoria Street, particularly for Cleveland Place. But obviously we'll have to factor in road safety in terms of how many we can accommodate on that site. There probably won't be the same number on the bus station, the bus stop site, but there will be sufficient. We anticipate to service the late night economy.
And if this proposal goes through Cabinet, the taxis drivers will have to be told that there's only X number of vehicles parked, so they know what the score is.
Once taken to Cabinet approve, obviously they'll be subject to consultation on the traffic order, but within there we'll certainly specify the number of bays that will facilitate. I apologise for that not being in the report.
That's all right. In your opinion, Paul, how long will this take? If it's going through Cabinet, and then they gotta advertise the orders. So by the time up, how long do you think that will take?
I probably say the new year.
Right.
By the time it goes to Cabinet, obviously goes through the consultation period, the order then to be processed and requisite signs, etc., to be put in place.
The reason I ask is that when the old rugby club finally, is used for what's been asked for, because that hasn't started yet. The fact is, there's going to be a hell of a lot of people all around that area, and there's a border there where one side is Parkwood, the other side is Townward. But there's going to be a lot of people when all these premises are fully up and running, and that's why I ask, because there's going to be a really constant flow of people going back and forth to their taxis, and when these two buildings are fully occupied.
This is one of the reasons why the proposal for a rank in that area has been suggested. We've had a number of meetings with South Wales Police following the unfortunate loss of life on the gyratory system. South Wales Police have raised concerns about safety on Deneva Street for the very reasons you've outlined, Councillor Jones. So one of the things that we can do as a local authority is to contribute to trying to make that a safer environment, introduce a rank in that area. We're also looking at highways that have other options to make that a safer environment for the late night economy. Club Crown opening will certainly add numbers, we hope, and it proves to be a success. So we're hoping this will be the first stage, and we'll continue to monitor that area. I think an ambition for us and the police would be if we were able to have a temporary road closure during peak evening economy times. At the moment, that's probably not within our gift to facilitate, but I certainly an ambition from the internal group that was set up that we'd like to get to. But whatever road safety measures we can put in as an interim, members may be aware we've positioned a new CCTV camera on that site. So again, from the police response, the authority has acted. We're proposing the new taxi rank. We've put in additional CCTV, and we can look at perhaps monitoring that area for vehicles that are parking illegally, and particularly taxis that will operate illegally, that obviously we're now offering a facility of a rank and there's no need to park illegally. So again, that's within our gift to enforce.
So when this comes about, you're hoping that, as I understand it, taxis draw up outside the nightclub. They shouldn't be doing that.
No, I mean, unless pre-booked, what we would hope is they'd go to the rank. Then you could have safe migration from the late night economy venues to the rank, where you're not standing with your arm out, which is what we see. And we can sort of have that throughput then, that everybody knows where they need to go to get a taxi, not just wander aimlessly in the hope. But that needs the public and the trade to buy into, so that, you know, introducing of the rank is stage one. Establishing the rank and getting it used would be obviously a challenge from there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Salmon.
Thank you, Chair. Paul, I've had contact from a bus operator. I'm not sure if they've taken part in the consultation process, but it's in regards to Glebe Place. Now, unofficially, for years, that area has traditionally been used by bus companies taking older persons on day trips and weekend trips and that sort of thing. Now, obviously, they weren't really supposed to do it, to be honest, park there, because it's got an existing no waiting and no loading area. And I think a company, at least one, has had a ticket there before for parking there. Is the possibility there that buses could park in there? Because I know they don't stay for long, maybe 20 minutes or stuff like that, because the area is central. It's quite safe as well for older people to get on and off there, and it's the ease of access for people to be dropped off as well.
I suppose the two things I'd say to that is obviously the Glebe Place rank isn't going to take up right the way to the end of that road. But I suppose putting my road safety hat on, I would have to say, is that a suitable place for a vehicle of the size of a coach to be parked on that stretch of road and on that bend? So I can't say that I could promote a coach using that as a pickup drop-off point. But what I will say is if that is a convenient spot, the whole of the bays the taxis aren't going to take up the whole road to the end of the multi-storey. So there will still be space beyond the taxi rank that could be used. I suppose that's the safest answer I could give, Councillor Salmon.
Right. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Williams-Price.
Thank you. You've touched upon some of the issues relating to my question originally, which is about the flow of people within the nighttime economy from Dynevor Street, which will obviously then, even with this taxi rack in place, will be past the fire station towards the college, and inevitably be due to the numbers of people that are often seen. They frequently don't use the pavement. So you've mentioned that closure isn't possible at this point in time. So could you explain a bit more about why that is the case and what the barriers to potentially doing a temporary road closure? And if that's something that is impossible, has any consideration been given to barriers or fencing along the pavement?
The road closure element, obviously, we've had to take into account the fire station, the ambulance station, old area where they park behind. So we've got to look at access routes there. With any road closure, you've got to put in sufficient barriers that if the road is closed, that a vehicle seeking menace can't get into that area, because obviously people will feel safe on the road. So we have to ensure that that area is adequately gated or bollarded, and that's where the difficulty arises in terms of policing and physically opening and closing of barriers. We've looked at facilities where perhaps hydraulic bollards could be used to close roads, and that could be linked potentially to a CCTV room to operate. Unfortunately, the costs involved with that sort of scheme are extremely expensive. So as it stands at the moment, in terms of opening and closing and gating to close it off, that would take manual resource, which is not currently in-house to do. So we are reviewing various contracts in terms of out of hours provision. And perhaps if we could go down the route of incorporating gate opening and closing as part of out of hour provision, then it would probably be something we could then look at. So we're not saying it won't happen, but in the interim, I think what we've got to look at is how we would service out of hours, the opening, closing of gates, making sure that it's done safely, and that obviously it doesn't prove to be a hindrance to emergency vehicles, that they can still access the site.
We come back in.
If any consideration be given to physical barriers along the pavement if we can't close the road.
Yeah, that's part of the work Highways are currently doing to try and make it safer. They're assessing, because the one side which I think is nearest the new club has got quite a narrow pavement. So there is a piece of work ongoing with Highways looking at how they can widen that footpath, and then obviously the barriers, etc., would be able to be put in to make that safe. There are barriers outside the cooler and the old Three Horseshoes, and there is fencing the other side at the Rafa Club. I think the difficulty we've got is obviously individuals may be intoxicated and choose not to use the safe routes, which unfortunately proves an additional risk for us. But yeah, that is being looked at the moment.
Thanks, Sarah. Councillor Jones?
The if a closure takes place, but I assumed where the closure was, but I need to clarify this with you. If it was closed to all vehicles, where would the barriers go? Because there are a few problems here. Not least are the two leisure places either side of the Duneva junction, but we've also got the unit there, Perry or whatever it's called, which is causing other problems there. So where would they put exactly, if that came about, where would the barrier go? And as far as the engineering works are concerned, both myself and Councillor Minette Vokes have been lobbying the engineers to do work there, because we both envisage that when everything is operating, there would be hundreds and hundreds of people at any one time, million around there. And we thought, we were given the impression that these engineering works were extremely likely to be done during this current financial year. But that is now, so I'm told, being deferred until sometime in the future. Mm-hmm. But in my opinion, those engineering works, something will have to happen, because if we don't, there's going to be another serious accident happening in that particular area.
I share what Chair has raised. In terms of barrier sighting, where I would foresee the sensible option would be is as you come around the gyratory, you'd be unable to turn left at where the fire station is. If we were barring Duneva Street off, you would make it impossible to turn left into that area. You would also look to barrier off at the junction where the vets are. And you would also look to barrier off then at the end of Duneva Street as you come towards the mini roundabout. Right. So that would make that complete area sterile. Right. So you'd be looking, in my opinion, I mean, obviously I bow to engineers, more expert knowledge in this area, but in order to make that environment sterile from a vehicle, I would say you'd need to have those three areas blocked off. So you'd be manning three barriers and one road closure in effect.
So anyone going up to Hillgerrick, for example, will have to turn right,
continue on the gyratory,
round, and back up Georgetown Hill, back that way to get up.
And in terms of the timing for that type of road closure, you wouldn't be looking for all the evening. I mean, if you look at the majority of those clubs were closed from 12 till 3, 4. So you'd be looking at 3 to 4 hour road closure to make it a safe environment. So you wouldn't be closing it for a huge period of time. But obviously the challenge for us as an authority is managing those barriers, gates effectively to ensure that emergency services can still access and if should they need to, and taking the nature of the premises into consideration, that is highly foreseeable that they would have to be open for emergency vehicles to attend.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Thank you. I got a couple of questions. Following on from Anna and Clive's questions, Deneva Street. I know it's a cheaper version, it's not ideal, but ANPR cameras, could they be possibly installed and fines issued during certain times?
We'd have to bring a traffic order in. The only caveat I would put with ANPR cameras is, yes, you'd be able to retrospectively fix penalty, fine the individual, but the damage would have been done. And that is the feedback we have from WEC to the counter-terrorism experts, is if you have a pedestrianised area, the ANP camera will be fine for catching the vehicle going in, but it's not going to prevent the damage that could be done by the vehicle entering. And that's where you've got to be considered of hostile vehicles. If you were looking to carry out menace, what better environment than someone thinking they're in a pedestrianised area at a peak time to cause maximum damage. So I think ANPR camera it has its uses, but I think if you're looking to pedestrianise an area, you've got to back that up with some form of barrier.
It's not an ideal way forward to do, but it's better than not doing anything, I guess, as well. I leave a building in Pontmorlas late at night sometimes, Red House, and people spilling onto Pontmorlas constantly right across the road, and it is quite dangerous. But at least there it's a single lane traffic and you are driving quite slow. So yeah, it is a concern. In terms of the taxi rank, obviously other towns have manned taxi ranks as well. They have like a support officer or whatever, pulling people into line. Is that something that's been considered as well?
Yeah, I think it's something each year the police pressure us on. But our answer to the police up until now is there is no evening taxi rank. So, but I know in neighbouring authorities, Pontypridd, Aberdare, peak times, particularly Christmas period, rugby internationals, they do look to the authority as to whether we'll put taxi marshalling on. So if the taxi ranks did prove to be successful, then yes, that might be a request that comes our way. We are able to recover the fees for taxi marshalling via our licensing systems. But obviously that would probably be met by resistance for the trade because that would mean upping the pricing. But, yes, that could be a pressure that would come our way in terms of making sure the town centre safer. The CCTV cameras would obviously act as a deterrent. But yeah, there is a possibility peak times that we would look to for the authority to provide marshalling. There is no budget for it at present. So obviously, if they did prove successful and they were needed, that would be something I'd probably have to come back to Council for Growth on.
Great, thank you. Looks like there's no more questions. Just open it to comments. Well, there is none. Be happy to know. Thank you very much. Welcome to stay. Stay. That is it. There's only like the scribbling repair. So okay, moving on.
All the best, Andy.
Item agenda 7, scrutiny referrals. I have none. Item agenda 8, report recommendations. How does everybody feel the meeting went? Councillor Jones?
Well, I'm pleased to hear that the report on the St Tibbers shopping precinct, that they are clearly prepared for a further report, and that is coming to us in 4 months' time, which is, I believe, what all the scrutiny committee members were asking for. So, you know, in that respect, we'll have a more detail, more up-to-date information, and I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah. Sorry, agreed. Councillor Salmon?
I just like to echo Councillor Clive Jones's comments there. To be honest, it's never nice when a difficult report comes. To be honest, but it's nice. It is good. It's refreshing that we've had an honest report, warts and all. You know, shown that things haven't gone right. But positivity. You know, Alan's saying that the report will be ready within 4 months for January. You know, it's yeah, it is positive. And a good report.
Thank you. Anna?
Thanks. Yeah, in terms of the reports that have come to us today, I think I'm satisfied with the discussion that's taken place. But I'm just a bit concerned in terms of the representation from our cooperative members today. Could we just receive an update on whether we've got any vacancies on the committee and what efforts we're doing to ensure that our cooperative members can attend?
Yeah, we can contact them and find out yeah, who's not attending. Hillary used to attend regularly, and I'm unsure now Howard's picked up his attendance recently as well. So he did say that he was struggling today, and we sent him a Teams invite, but he hasn't showed. So we'll just, yeah, there's one vacancy. So, but we can I'll speak to Democratic and see if we can advertise that and push for somebody. Yeah, I agree with you anyway. So, okay, yeah, I thought the meeting went well. I was a bit worried, to be honest, about the one, but I thought it was really positive, and I look forward to it coming back. Moving on, agenda item 9, feedback from scrutiny activities. Just want to say, like, we went and had that police visit. Does anybody want to say how they think it went? Councillor Joe?
Yes, it was very interesting. As a result of that visit, what I wanted to know was what we are we gonna, is there gonna be a sort of a summary of what went on, what we were told, because we had a lot of information given there in the day. I don't know whether it resolved our ongoing queries about the 101 system. I for one, they tried to explain how they were dealing with it, but I just wonder how that will get into the, you know, the frustrations that the public have got in contacting outside the treble 9 system quickly. We were told and we saw how it worked there, but I think perhaps we needed some sort of, so we can, you know, it can be recorded what we were told or what they were trying to do. Because I to be honest with you, I didn't make any notes there. There was a is it Owen Goff was the gent that took us around there? He's a civilian in effect, and you know, we were asking him questions as we went along there. So that's all I'm saying, is that perhaps we need to have some infill in written form, so we've got it recorded here of what went on. If that is possible.
Yeah, we can follow that up. In terms of the presentation they give us, they've said no, didn't they?
They've said no.
Yeah, there's some sensitive information in there, apparently.
Right.
So, yeah, maybe we can ask them to remove that bit and just have the rest of it.
Yeah.
the frustrations I had, we could see how busy they were, and and what they're doing is about getting the word out to how they promote their services, especially that keep safe Cymru. My wife is a social worker. A friend was down that weekend. She's a social worker for many years. Never knew about that service, and it's been running 10 years. So it's sorry, Clive. It's a service where vulnerable people can fill in a form, and it's in pigeonholes. Neil has some information, and you fill it in, and then you get a card. So if somebody's acting erratically, they can give that to the police to show they're vulnerable or suffering from mental health issues. So it's something that none of us there knew was in existence. Clive, do you want to come back in?
It's ironic. Came back from that visit, and there was an email from a constituent of ours, not a million miles away from this building, and she was complaining that she made a report on 101, and I know we saw a board there, the number of calls that were waiting to be dealt with. This particular person had waited 8 days, and when she wrote to me, she was quite frustrated. She hadn't had a call back, because we were told in that meeting, yes, we do call people back. We call them back as soon as we can. And so I then wrote to Inspector Duckham. I involved all the police covering our patch and others, and went to town on it and forwarded on the email I had. I haven't heard anything more come back from that. But it just gives an example where they say that they are dealing with these and they're dealing with as quick as they can. But I wish I'd had that complaint the day before, because I'd have asked them, well, how is this happening? And it shouldn't be happening.
Okay, anybody else? All right, thank you all for attending. Item agenda 10, any other business deemed urgent by the chair? I have none. Just